Steve, go ahead.
You said you feel differently now about the China trade deal. Could you amplify on that a little bit?
No, it just seems to mean less to me because, we did this great deal with China. They have to buy billions and billions of dollars of product, farm product and other product. And it was very exciting, one of the biggest deals ever made. Actually, not as big as the USMCA, which surprises people, but it could have been bigger over a period of time because the potential there is just beginning, in a sense. And it was very exciting. But once the virus came in, once the plague, as I call it, came in, I said, how did they let that happen? How did they let that happen? And how come it didn't go into other sections of China? Why did they block it from leaving Wuhan? But they didn't block it from going to the rest of the world, including the United States. Why is that? Beijing doesn't have it. Other places don't have it. So why is it that it was blocked very effectively from leaving that area and going into China, but it went out to the rest of the world, including the United States? And why didn't they let us go in and help them fix it? So I'm very disappointed in China. Yeah.
Mr. President, why haven't...
Just to follow up, you've been talking about possible retaliation for that. Are you any closer to a decision on that, sir?
I don't talk about retaliation. Go ahead.
Mr. President, why haven't you announced a plan to get 36 million unemployed Americans back to work? You're overseeing historic economic despair. What's the delay?
I think we've announced a plan. We're opening up our country. Just a rude person you are. We're opening up our country. We're opening it up very fast. The plan is that each state is opening, and it's opening up very effectively. And when you see the numbers, I think even you will be impressed, which is pretty hard to impress you. Yeah, go ahead, please.
A lot of these jobs
Go ahead.
are not
It's enough for
coming
you.
back.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Canada has confirmed that the border is going to remain closed until June 21st, 10 days before
Right.
the USMCA. Aren't you worried for the economy of the border states?
Yeah, we do, and we speak to Canada all the time. Obviously, the relationship is very good with the Prime Minister and myself and with the two countries. Canada's our neighbor. We have a great relationship. We love Canada. So we're going to be talking, and at the right time, we'll open that up very quickly. That'll go very easily. Yeah, please.
It could happen before June 21st?
Yeah, it could. Sure, it could. They're doing well. We're doing well. We're both doing well.
Thank you. Mr. President, you've said repeatedly that the United States is now the king of ventilators and that we have so many that we're sending them overseas, selling them, and then in some cases actually gifting them to other countries. My question is, are you looking to use these diplomatically to strengthen ties with other nations and counter Chinese influence in some parts of the world?
No, I'm not looking to do diplomatically. I'm looking to save lives. If we can save lives of another country, that's a great thing. So I'm only looking to save lives. Probably that's good diplomatically, but I'm not looking at that. You have countries that have no chance. They have no ventilators. They don't have a capacity to build them. And we're sending hundreds and even thousands, and we have thousands now, and they're being produced at a very rapid pace. Jared and his whole team of geniuses from Silicon Valley and other places came in, and they've done an incredible job. So we have them by the thousands. We had none, essentially. We had very few, and they were obsolete. They were broken. We're building not only a lot of them, but we have a very high-quality ventilator, one of the highest. So countries know that, and they're calling us, and they're asking for help. They need help. So I only think in terms of saving lives. The country, we've gotten some very unusual calls from people that normally wouldn't be calling us too easily, asking for help. You can get swabs, and you can get gowns, and you can get a lot of things, but getting ventilators is very tough, very, very tough, because it's a very complex machine, very expensive machine. So we've done a very good job, and probably it does help diplomatically, but we do it for helping people's lives, save lives. Yes, please, please.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
so Ford Motor Company has previously required visitors to wear masks when they visit their facilities. Do you plan to wear one when you go there on Thursday?
I don't know. I haven't even thought of it. It depends. I mean, in certain areas I would, in certain areas I don't. But I will certainly look at it. It depends on what situation. Am I standing right next to everybody, or am I spread out? And also, you look, is something a hospital? Is it a ward? What is it exactly? I'm going to a plant, so we'll see. Where it's appropriate, I would do it, certainly. Yeah.
Mr. President, you continue to talk about helping minority communities. What specifically are you looking at to help those communities? What actions?
So one of the things I was most proud of was the minority community and all of the work we've done for the minority communities. Black unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, Asian unemployment was the best ever in the history of our country. We've never had anything like it. We've never had so many African-American jobs ever in the history of our country by far. And we are bringing our country back, and a big focus is exactly that with the minorities. Specifically, if you look at the Asians, they've done incredibly well. Hispanics, incredibly well. African Americans, record-setting every month. You know that. Every month there was a record-setting jobs number. And that's what we want to do. We want to get it back to that level. We had to artificially close our country. One day we did the right thing. We would have lost millions of lives if we didn't. Think of it. If we lost 100,000 lives, the minimum we would have lost is 1.2 million, 1.3 million, 1.5 million maybe. But take it to 1 million. So that would mean 10 times more that we lost already. Now, I've seen hospitals like Elmhurst, Queens, where I grew up near that. I know that hospital. Where they had one day 11 body bags in a hallway, and they had some outside. And that they had refrigerated trucks coming to take bodies away. Now, multiply that times 10. It would have been unacceptable. And that's the lowest number possible. It probably would have been times 20 or maybe 25. So we did the right thing, but now we have to get back to work. And we want to open up, and the people want to open up. But we've learned a lot about the disease. We've learned about distancing. Nobody ever heard of social distancing before. We've learned about the washing of hands. I used to wash my hands a lot, but I tell you right now, I wash them more. We learned a lot. And we also learned how to put out the embers or the fires, whatever may come. We learned without having to close down the whole country. And we have big sections of our country that don't have much of a problem. We have some sections that don't have any problem at all. So we're opening up our country. We're doing really well. And most excitingly, we're working on vaccines, therapeutics, and cures that are really moving along at a level that nobody would have thought possible. And the military, I could say Mark Esper. Okay, you know Mark Esper. He's become a very important person in the world of medicine because his military is going to be distributing, whether it's therapeutically or whether it's cures or whether it's a vaccine. And by the way, I have to say all three are doing unbelievably well, but Mark and the military are going to be getting them out. So he has hundreds of thousands of people that he is immediately that work for us right now. They're fully ready to deploy. They're ready to get the job done. They'll be doing it in a record business. And everything we've done with the military has been terrific. We've had admirals, we've had generals. I remember when Crying Chuck Schumer said, we should get the military involved. I said, they are. He said, we should use one of our generals. I said, we do. Our generals have done a great job, Jared, right? And our admirals have done a great, we had everybody involved. And they are tremendously talented people. And this isn't what they do. They fight. They're great fighters, and they fight. But, yeah, the minority communities are really going to be well served. I think we are going to get that right back, and this includes everybody. This includes our whole country, but right back to where it was, which was record-setting numbers.
What are the specific options right now that you are considering for those communities?
Right now, we're opening up areas, and a lot of people are getting jobs. I heard some numbers yesterday that were really incredible. The amount, percentage-wise, of the country that opened up so quickly over the last few days. I think you're going to see some very big numbers, and I think next year is going to be an incredible year economically. You can never make up for all of the loss of life. You can never do that. From an economic standpoint, however, next year is going to be, I think it's going to be potentially a great year for us. Yeah. Please.
The FDA has said hydroxychloroquine should not be used outside of a hospital setting or...
No, that's not what I was told.
Research
No,
study. So
there was a false study done where they gave it to very sick people, extremely sick people, people that were ready to die. It was given by obviously not friends of the administration. And the study came out, the people were ready to die. Everybody was old, had bad problems with hearts, diabetes, and everything else you can imagine. So they gave it. So immediately when it came out, they gave a lot of false information. Just so you understand, great studies came out of Italy on hydroxy. You know what I'm talking about, right? Right? Great studies came out, and the combination of the three. But we had some great studies come out. Italy, France, Spain, ourselves, many doctors, many doctors came out and they said, it's great. Now, you have to go to a doctor. I have a doctor in the White House. I said, what do you think? And it's just a line of defense. I'm just talking about as a line of defense. I'm dealing with a lot of people. Look at all the people in the room. You know, I'm the president and I'm dealing with a lot of people. And it's a very inexpensive drug. It's almost pennies. It's very inexpensive. And it's been out for close to 70 years for a couple of different things, right? Lupus and malaria and even arthritis, they say. But I think it's worth it as a line of defense, and I'll stay on it for a little while longer. I'm just very curious myself, but it seems to be very safe. But that study was a phony study put out by the VA. You may want to talk about that. I mean, we could talk about that if anybody wants to, and maybe I'd ask Alex to talk about then. If you would introduce our great talented head of the VA and let him say a couple of words. But that was a phony study, and it's very dangerous to do it. The fact is, people should want to help people, not to make political points. It's really sad when they do that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so hydroxychloroquine has been approved by the FDA for decades here in the United States for the treatment of malaria, for the prevention of malaria, treatment of lupus, treatment of rheumatoid arthritis. And the system we have here in the United States that is once a drug has been approved and on the market, a doctor in consultation with a patient may use it for what we call off-label purposes, which are indications that are not yet proven and not yet in the label. And this is the right to try president. He, for the first time, got the historic right to try legislation for experimental therapies, but that applies to our existing regime, which is approved products may be used in the judgment of a physician in consultation with their patient. As the president said, and I'll ask Secretary Wilkie to talk a bit about the VA study, there's been some studies around the use of hydroxychloroquine later in disease progression, but we are still working on some controlled studies earlier in the disease progression to see if we can measure the effectiveness of it in preventing the replication of the virus and spread in mild to moderate cases rather than the more serious, and that data is still pending.
And it's got, well, it's gotten very good reviews, very good from many doctors, many doctors. Secretary, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to clear up something that the media has not reported accurately. That was not a VA study.
Can you hear him? Because I think it's important. You asked the question.
Yeah, that was
you
not.
Want to listen? Because I don't even think you're listening.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Why don't you listen to him?
That was not a VA study. Researchers took VA numbers, and they did not clinically review them. They were not peer-reviewed. They did not even look at what the president just mentioned, the various comorbidities that the patients who were referenced in that study had. I also want to echo what the Secretary of HHS said. The instructions I received from the President were very clear, and that was to preserve and protect life. Those of us who've had a military life, some of us around this table, we've been taking this drug for years. As the President mentioned, Department of Defense and VA have been using it for 65 years. On any given day, VA uses 42,000 doses of this drug. And what we did when this virus first hit us was to use every means necessary to help preserve life. We believed that the Congress was right, and the President signed legislation to protect life, the right to try. And we did this in consultation not only with the families of those veterans, but we did this in consultation with our doctors under FDA guidelines. So I want to knock down the phony story that this is somehow the VA going back on what the President told us to do, which was to use every means possible to protect and preserve the lives of our veterans. And I think as the President mentioned, we've seen in many cases across this country. In fact, I was on the news the day that the governor of New York was asking you for tens of thousands of doses.
That's right.
We are doing everything we can to protect the lives of our veterans, and this is one of the means that we used.
Thank you. Hydroxychloroquine is used by thousands and thousands of frontline workers so that hopefully they don't catch this horrible disease or whatever you want to call it. It is a terrible virus. It's a terrible thing. And a lot of people are taking it. A lot of doctors are taking it. A lot of people swear by it. It's gotten a bad reputation only because I'm promoting it. So I'm obviously a very bad promoter. If anybody else were promoting it, they'd say this is the greatest thing ever. But because of me. So a lot of doctors swear by it. I think we can say that, Mr. Secretary. A lot of doctors think it's great. But the one thing that is true, one way or the other, whether you like it or not, it's been around for 70 years. Unbelievably effective for malaria and for lupus, and probably effective for arthritis. And what has been determined is it doesn't harm you. It's a very powerful drug, I guess, but it doesn't harm you. And so I thought as a frontline defense, possibly it would be good. And I've had no impact from it. I feel the same. I haven't changed. I don't think too much. And at some point, you know, I won't take it. Might be soon, might be a little bit. It doesn't seem to have any impact on me. But it seems to be a extra line of defense, and it's gotten tremendous reviews from some people, including many, many doctors all over the world. And you should look at some of the studies. They've been amazing, some of the studies. But that's up to people, and it's up, I think, strongly recommend to people with their doctor's advice and acknowledgement. Okay? Okay.
Cabinet taking that regimen, Mr. President?
Say it?
Is anyone else in your cabinet taking?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a personal thing as to whether or not they want to answer that question. But I think many of them would take it if they felt it was necessary. I also had a case where we had somebody fairly close to me, a very nice young gentleman. He tested positive. And he tested positive. Plus, I deal with Mike a lot, and Mike had somebody very close to him who I also see who tested positive. So I thought, you know, from my standpoint, not a bad time to take it, because we had the combination, the two people. It's two people in a very big building with a lot of people working. But so I thought it would be appropriate, but it has had no impact in terms of me. Okay? Any other question, please?
Mr. President?
Yes. Go ahead. You want to go? Go ahead.
I just want to ask you a question on Brazil, who's
Brazil.
which is now, yes, in third place now, catching up to Russia in second place for a number of cases. Are you finally considering a travel ban from Brazil and Latin America?
We are considering it. We hope that we're not going to have a problem. The governor of Florida is doing very, very well testing, in particular Florida, because a big majority come into Florida. Brazil has gone more or less herd. You know what that is, herd. And they're having problems. By the way, you know, when you say that we lead in cases, that's because we have more testing than anybody else. So we test much more than anybody else. Again, we're close to 14 million. It was said 12 and a half. It's actually, I think, close to 14 million now. And so we have 14 million tests. In Germany, if they do 2 million, that's a lot. And others are doing 1 million. So if you're testing 14 million people, you're going to find many more cases. Many of these people aren't very sick, but they still go down as a case. So actually, the number of cases, and we're also a much bigger country than most. So when we have a lot of cases, I don't look at that as a bad thing. I look at that as, in a certain respect, as being a good thing, because it means our testing is much better. So if we were testing 1 million people instead of 14 million people, we would have far fewer cases, right? So I view it as a badge of honor. Really, it's a badge of honor. It's a great tribute to the testing and all of the work that a lot of professionals have done. Okay?
Aren't you worried that they're going to bring their
Oh,
cases?
yeah, no, I say, I mean, as to the first part of your question, yeah, sure. I worry about everything. I don't want people coming in here and affecting our people. I don't want people over there sick either. We're helping Brazil with ventilators. We're sending them ventilators, okay? They need ventilators. I'm sending them ventilators. We have so many thousands of them. We're sending them. We're sending a lot of people. No, Brazil is having some trouble. No question about it. Sweden, by the way, you know, I've heard a lot about Sweden and the way they do it. Well, you have Norway, Denmark, Finland, Sweden, that little group of beautiful countries. Well, Sweden took a little different attitude, but Sweden has far more deaths than the other three. You know that, right? Do you know that? Yeah, a lot more death. Many times the deaths. But they did it a different way, and, you know, I understand that too. And as Mike said very well before, there is death on both sides. There's death on both sides. There's death in staying in a shutdown also, and lots of other things. But there's also death. Okay.
See, in terms of travel between the United States and Europe, but lifting travel restrictions.
I'd love it to open up as soon as it can, but we have to make sure that we're doing well and they're doing well. And in many cases we are. But, you know, we have a very big country. We have some areas that have done incredibly well. We have other areas where the results are, it's tougher. New York and New Jersey are tougher. People don't realize New Jersey is the most dense state. A lot of people don't realize that. The governor's a terrific person. He's very liberal, but that's okay. He's a very liberal guy, but we like him. He's a good man, and he's working very hard. But New Jersey is a very dense area, very, very dense. And I speak to Andrew a lot, Andrew Cuomo a lot. We're working very well together. And, you know, those are the two spots that have really been very heavily hit. A big portion, a big percentage, I don't know what it is, it's a very big percentage, almost half of our deaths would be to those two. Now, at the same time, the numbers, even in those two places, are coming down. They're coming down very rapidly. And I put out yesterday a statement, numbers are coming down with the exception of very little, few exceptions. The numbers are coming down all over the United States very rapidly, very rapidly. It's a beautiful thing to watch. But it's left behind serious death, and it shouldn't have happened. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
All right, folks, thank you so much for joining us and choosing us as your news source here at Golden State Times. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and you click that notification bell. Also, don't forget to click the thumbs up button and share this video on social media. If you want to get notified for future live streams, all you have to do is send us a text message with the word Trump Live to the number 555-888. Once again, if you want to get notified by us instead of YouTube, because YouTube cannot be trusted when it comes to getting notifications, then all you have to do is send me a text message with the word Trump Live to the number 555-888. Thank you so much, folks, and we'll see you very soon.